Welcome to the next episode of the SWBL podcast. I'm Brian Benware, your host, and today I'm joined by John Calloway, captain of the new franchise, the White Sox. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Brian. I appreciate you having me today.
Good, man. And we are just like all the other ones that you're hearing. We're going to be going through a little bit of the roster breakdown, looking at the division, and what's to come in season 20. It's a little different since it's a new franchise. We won't be really discussing anything from season 19, maybe a few points here or there about a player, but nothing about a team. So, and again, today's episode is brought to you by 1356 Public House, our presenting sponsor for season 20. So with that, we'll just dive in. All right.
Let's do it.
All right, buddy. So like I said, it's a new franchise, first season, the White Sox. So good thing is you've got a stacked team on paper. You've got 3 of the top 20 players from last season on there. And then you've got 2 guys who one was a rookie last year, but performed really well. And then Ty Butler, who has been in the top 20 as well. So let me just go through the roster in case people have forgotten, but obviously yourself. You had a Derek Cornell from the Brewers, Ty Butler from the Royals, Jackson Crosley from the Yankees, and then Leon Cherry from the Royals as well. So let's kind of talk about this roster building and kind of how these players kind of fit what you were looking for to build in a team, because you're, building from scratch and not a lot of teams are doing that anymore. So.
Yeah, when you look at the approach to the game for every individual, I think you'll find a lot of commonalities between all of us, specifically in the field, I would say. We're very interchangeable, and I am, minus Jackson in terms of pitching, and because Jackson can play the field, no problem. We're all just not at his level of pitching,
Yeah.
is what I mean by that, right?
Yeah.
But the term I'm gonna throw around a lot in a lot of these conversations, not just with you, but when anybody asks, is we're dirtbags, man. We're grinding, we're hustling, and if you sprinkle the skill that we do have into that, I think it's going to be a nice recipe for success. But to answer your question directly, Brian, I think there's a culture that we want to define, and it started out as me, Jackson, and Derek.
Mm-hmm.
We all went to school together. We're all the same age. We knew that changes were coming through the pipe, and we talked about this before I even signed with the Astros, but
Yep.
It was, hey, we know a new franchise is coming. If I get tapped for it, I'm gonna leave the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, as we all know, that opportunity arose, and the league talked about it, kind of why they wanted to do it is because there was a gap there between all of the people my age. We were all thrown out and dispersed on all these teams, uh, so I sat down. I was like, obviously Jackson, one of my good buddies, and Derek, we've always gotten along with him, even with him being on the Brewers. And
Mm-hmm.
I hope that doesn't sound like I'm insinuating that we don't get along with anybody else on the Brewers, because we love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's definitely
an
an age group that was focused on by the league. I mean, that was kind of always in the back of everybody's mind, for sure. And those 3 names together made sense. So
for sure. So you expand that, and you look at guys that hustle, guys that we get along with, and you throw Ty and Leon into that. I think there's one guy and that I've always admired in the league in terms of his work ethic and just his overall mentality is Ty.
mm-hmm.
And it's not every day you get to add a guy like him. And I don't know if he'd come out and say this, but like there's a likelihood of like if the White Sox didn't grab him, he might have thought about not staying in the league.
Yeah, it'd be that or the Yankees. I couldn't think of anybody else like he'd go play with, being that.
Well, and Ty's one of those guys that's like, Ty doesn't care about like the optics. He is a really content guy, and at the end of the day, it feels like, oh, if I didn't find a team that I wanted to play for, I'll just stop playing wiffle ball. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like that's his mentality.
Hmm.
And thankfully, we found a nice agreement for him being on the White Sox. And everybody on my team, obviously I grew up with Derek and Jackson, but like I went to school with Leon and Ty.
Yeah.
So I played all these intramural sports with them at Missouri State. So there's definitely a layer of friendship there outside of the SWBL.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of the five guys that you have, one thing, obviously we had, like you had mentioned, we had conversations when you joined the Astros of, when the opportunity came for you to do your own thing, we were gonna, we even wrote in the contract, even though contracts are what they are, that, basically a walk clause for that opportunity. But, at the same time, like it was fun kind of looking at the future, knowing that was coming about, during the weekend, like once we kind of realized like, hey, this is for sure happening. It's not just kind of, we think it's happening, it's for sure happening. It was fun getting to sit next to you and like kind of talk through what you were wanting to do, and like what your plans were as a new captain and the type of players you were wanting to bring over. And one thing you had mentioned was you had initially wanted to go with 4 and like stick with the same 4 guys. And then obviously you've gotten 5 now. Was that more of a decision based on opportunity of the players that were available, or was there a reason you decided to kind of shift your mindset from 4 to 5?
I think it was the former of what you said. You never know what could happen over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody could get sick, somebody could get hurt. Circumstance may arise where, hey, they might not even be there at all
Yeah.
over the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Those things happen all the time as we continue to get older and our responsibilities get bigger. So one, you look at a guy like Leon, who is our 5th.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be transparent in that regard, and we've set expectations very clearly with him on playing time and what that looks like.
Yeah.
But Leon is our security blanket. Our logic and game plan moving forward throughout the whole season is always going to be, ride with our 4.
Okay.
Those are the guys, right?
Yeah.
That's our game plan. But Leon provides a really deep level of security for us because he can do a lot of things. He can bat well, he hustles, he can play the field well, he can even pitch a little bit. So if it boils down to it, Leon's going to step in and he's ready to do that, and we have a lot of confidence in him. But our conversations, because our logic between me and you, Brian, was like, hey, like you've always been telling me you should have a plan, like
Yeah.
if things go wrong, right? And it's like, yes, I know that, but it's hard to balance that logic with talent
Yeah.
because talent doesn't want to sit on the bench,
Yeah.
right?
And you don't want to sit your
Um,
talent on the bench either. Like you
and you
want to
don't,
put your
right?
team in the best position to win. So
Right. So if we find ourselves in spots with A+ matchups, big leads running up the board, we're gonna work hard to get Leon in there
mhm.
because when it gets really down to the wire at the end of the season, those types of guys are always needed,
Yeah, absolutely,
right?
man. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't want them to be completely cold in a big pressure situation too. If you can find moments to get them in a bat or get them an inning in the field or, just an opportunity in the right circumstance, it's just going to help him feel more comfortable if he ends up getting thrown into a situation, in that last part of the season. So,
For sure.
yeah. Well, I was kind of thinking about you guys and then also the Orioles, right? And we're talking about team makeup and how you built this team, but you had a fairly different kind of approach to building your team from like maybe a character standpoint, obviously a certain, talent pool, but the Orioles, another new team, they had a bit of a different kind of approach to building their team. It certainly seems like, let's just get as many big names as possible and hope it works together. And granted, they are all friends, just like you guys are. They're close in age. They've obviously got a lot of history together, but it definitely felt like, you're building something for longevity. And I'm not saying that the Orioles aren't, but at the same time, it certainly felt like, let's throw everything, all our chips on the table for this season and see if we can make it happen. And so, what was your, I don't know, I guess I'm maybe just commenting, but if you had any thoughts along those lines of the way you're approaching a team versus maybe what the Orioles are doing.
Well, what you're describing for them sounds a lot like a win now
Mhm.
mentality. And a lot of the guys on their team are obviously older compared to the average age of the league. Uh, but I don't think that win now mentality is wrong. I think every team needs it, right?
Yeah.
But for most teams, hopefully, you're balancing that with thinking long term.
Yeah.
And like most things, Brian, the answer is always somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in this development stage for the next 5 years. You don't want to be putting all your eggs in one basket for the next 5 years and
Right.
continuously failing.
Yeah.
So I think finding that middle ground can be reflected in the complete roster the White Sox have put together. All of us show no signs of really slowing down, and we have a nice variety of age, talent, and just holistic approach to the league in general and what we value.
Right. But I would think one, I don't want to say it is a major difference, but one thing to me, it feels like with that win now mentality and let's get all the firepower and star names we can, is if they don't win the championship, it feels like it's going to be a complete, wasted season where I maybe that's how the White Sox feel, but I also feel like if you guys come out and go 7-3, 8-4, or even just win the division and go to the semifinals in your first season, like I feel like that's a victory, knowing like, hey, this is our first year together, but we're doing this, like this is going to be our squad for a while. Like I feel like that would be a victory where for them, like if they don't win it all, then it's, like I said, a wasted season.
Yeah, and that mindset there, man, because what you're almost leading to is that like the Orioles aren't playing next year. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, no,
And then the reality is like we know like all of the rumor mills out there. Like
yeah.
the Skibby brothers are on 2 different teams
Mhm.
right now. They
Yeah.
want to play again, right?
Mhm.
The Light brothers are playing again, but like they're getting older. Like what happens to them next year, right?
Right.
Because the Skibby brothers will play together again.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that on the
Is it
last
going to be after this inaugural Orioles season, or is it going to be 5 years from now, right?
Right.
No one knows. But I think our mentality is to win it all, right? Like
Should be.
that's the type of, you're right, it should be. And I think there's enough confidence, awareness, and humbleness to how we're approaching everything where we're going to take it for what it's worth. We're not going to dilute a really hard fought season if we don't win the championship and be super bummed about it, right?
Yeah.
But we're also not going to be, saying, "Oh, championship or bust," and
Yeah.
anything else below that's a failure, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to be super jacked up. Obviously, who wouldn't be if
Yeah.
you make it and win, right?
Yeah. Well, and one thing I'm really trying to do too by doing these comparisons is kind of stir up a bit of a rivalry. It's a logical rival in the sense that you start 2 franchises in the same year to see who's going to be the better team, and hope that continues through the years. But also, the other thing I was kind of wanting to talk about with that was, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, I think I'll let you sit on that for a
Yeah.
second, and you don't really need to listen to what I'm about to say, but speaking in terms of rivalries, I've given that thought and who I would want our rival to be, and I would want that to be a team that's been around a long time and will continue to be around a long time. I don't know if that's going to happen considering who's on the roster, but I think a super competitive very healthy rivalry would be the White Sox and the Yankees.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into it, buddy, for sure.
And I like really want that to be something that happens in the SWBL
Mhm.
because of the brotherhood we've developed with our rosters together and now
Yeah,
separate.
yeah.
It's something that we could all really look forward to,
Mhm.
and it wouldn't turn into something that is negative for the league
Sure, for sure.
or
Yeah,
either of our teams.
it
It'd be
would
a
be
really healthy
it,
rivalry.
right. It would be a very competitive, healthy rivalry where you both want the pride of being able to take down the other, but at the
A
same
lot of
time,
respect for each
yes,
other. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's a natural rivalry, and we're going to talk about it when we kind of get into the division, for sure.
sure.
I'm obviously happy it kind of panned out that way, but
Can't
let's
write it.
just, huh?
Can't write that stuff.
No, it was crazy just the way it all worked out. But
Right.
let's kind of wrap up a little bit of the roster talk. Um, like I said, on paper, you guys look really, really good. And in fact, like you're one of my favorite teams, and I'm biased because I'm one of your biggest fans.
Sure.
But I'm a fan of all the guys on your team. And I just really like what you built this year. But what concerns do you have? And what is the plan? We had kind of talked about, a little bit of referencing it during the schedule podcast that you were on with me. But what is the plan? You had mentioned you weren't going to play the field, which was a surprise to me, because on paper, if it's you and Ty in the field, that's really, really good. But
Right.
what is the plan on how, divulge what you want and don't divulge what you don't want to, but,
Sure.
and then what concerns do you have going into the season?
I'll start with our roster and what that's going to look like. Ty will be batting leadoff and playing left field. Um, so, that means I'm not playing left field,
Right.
right?
Right.
Uh, which I've been doing for my whole time
Mm-hmm.
in the SWBL. Um, Part of me is sad in some regard, but I recognize that Ty is a slightly above fielder compared to me, um, and it's rare that you have two of the top left fielders in the league on the same roster.
Yep.
Uh, but I think for me personally, I'm looking forward to really being only focused on hitting.
Okay.
Um, whether it's not wanting my body to get banged up in left field, um, being able to put a lot more time and expectation on my bat. Those are thoughts that we've been throwing around, right? So,
Yeah.
with Ty being in left field, batting leadoff, I'm going to be batting second. Obviously, not in the field, and I'll probably leave Derek batting third
Okay.
and playing right field, and Jackson batting fourth and on the mound. I think when you're looking at our roster, Derek is the dark horse uh, of our team right now for full time players starting,
Mhm.
and he, uh, could potentially be the most athletic guy on our roster. And he's never had this type of opportunity to really fully show that, right? So I think
Yeah.
with me having a really heavy focus on my bat year in and year out, I felt like this was the golden hook for Derek to say, "This is my team. This is who I want to ride and die with. They're going to give me the full time opportunity that I've been looking for. I'm in."
Yeah.
And it's not like you're throwing a guy out there that doesn't have proof of concept in what he's doing,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a A+ fielder. Put him next to Ty, who's also an A+ fielder. Jackson, A+ pitcher at his position, not only with his pitching but his fielding ability.
Yeah.
Great roster out there, right? And then you
Mhm.
have me coming off the bench to play either left or right if there is an injury or somebody just needs a breather, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And as well as Leon, right?
Right. Well, so then you've kind of addressed all that, but then I know we've talked about the depth at pitching that maybe is going overlooked
Yeah.
with the rest of your roster. But do
Yeah.
you have a two picked out on in your rotation, or is it gonna be kind of between the rest of the group besides yourself?
Yeah, so it'll probably be between Derek and Ty. So in those scenarios,
You'll
I'll
come
be
in.
I'll come in,
Yeah.
right? Ty's pitched before. Derek pitched for the Brewers last year.
Mhm.
I'd say they both have good arms in terms of relief and support. There's no expectation that we're going to be riding them year in and year, or the whole season, right? That's Jackson's role. He knows
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But that's our backup plan,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And then if something happens to Jackson, then we're going to be splitting Derek and Ty as strategically as we can.
Yeah.
And I'd say that'd probably be our concern. If something happened to Jackson, who do we ride? And I would say that probably mirrors like early Yankees era, if you
Mhm.
will, where there's a lot of Jackson and Scott ended up throwing knuckleballs over the plate,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah.
you know,
Right. Yeah. Well, and then the other thing, like we really haven't touched on, but Jackson's been playing in the field for the last, at least last year for sure, and a little bit the year before, at times
right?
too. So it's not like he's not used
Only
to
on the
being out
mound,
there, right? Like
right?
he even in the situation where you come in the field and you're putting somebody else on the mound, if something were to go wrong, you do have Jackson off the bench to come field if
Yeah,
you have to too. So
right. And that's like including Leon in this. Like I'm the only one that hasn't pitched that
right.
does like, and I'm sure I could, but I won't need to,
Yeah.
right? Everybody's super interchangeable.
Yeah. So do you have any concerns, any question marks for yourselves, or are you like full confidence?
I mean, I have full confidence, man. I mean, you accept the realities of the situations as they come up, and I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
Because again, on paper, everything looks really sharp, and everybody is very diverse in their skill set. So I'm not worried about an injury for a game or two or a day, completely dismantling what we do.
Yeah. Well, and like we talked about earlier, it seems like you've worked through a lot of scenarios in your head. If this happens, this is our plan. If this happens, this is our plan. So like, I think you've gone about it the right way in that sense of just, with the responsibility of a captain. You're not some people in the past, some teams in the past have been like, these are our guys and we're just going to do what we do and not have a plan in case something happens. But those things are going to become a bigger and bigger part of our league, I think, as we continue to get older and one, talent levels drop off, but two, injuries are going to happen. I think hopefully not. I mean, I hope that we get into like year 30 and we've never had a devastating injury or anything like that. But we've already seen pulled hamstrings and messed up ankles before, so it's not uncommon. But well,
For
let's
sure.
jump on, looking at this division and looking at season 20 and some of the matchups you're going to have, so you are in the Corner Pub and Grill division with the 1 seed Yankees, the new team, the White Sox, and coming in the tier 2, and then the Expos coming in at tier 3. So what were your initial thoughts when this played out and the division that you got?
Super excited to be in the league with the Yankees, or in the division with the Yankees. Again, I think that's going to be a really healthy rivalry. I think we're all going to be super competitive,
Mhm.
just in the nature of our relationships with one another.
Yep.
And when you look at the Expos, it's you don't really know every year what you're going to get with them. Uh, they dropped off the face of the earth last year
Mhm.
compared to their championship run, which they held on to dear life with through Jimmy's performance.
Yeah.
So even if Jimmy's lights out, it, they got to depend on their bats now to score.
Yeah.
I don't really see that happening. So I think you're probably gonna see the Yankees and White Sox take obviously a division win in the playoff, but
Mhm.
a wild card spot
Yeah.
as well. I think you're gonna see 1 and 2 of our division both make it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. There's a natural rivalry. We've already talked about it, and then you also have, Gus and Leon, which we haven't really mentioned, but the fact that they played together last year and now are facing off against each other.
Yeah. Well,
this
and
year.
Ty.
Oh,
Right.
and Ty, yeah, and that's,
Right.
the reason Ty's in the league is because of Gus.
Yeah. I mean, the
And the
only
friendship.
non-Yankee Royal is Derek.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, so it is.
So
It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be, those games that people circle to make sure they're at the field to watch, for sure.
yeah, and I hope that because of that, we're talking a lot of this is just very natural,
Mhm.
right? I'm hoping that gives. I'm not even hoping. I'm predicting that that's going to give one of us a competitive advantage,
Yeah,
and it's going to be the first team that to crack that falls short,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I don't say crack in the sense that like everything's going to hell in a handbasket, but I think individuals could leverage that history
Hmm.
in a way that allows them to have that
Yeah.
competitive advantage,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah,
Because like here's the deal. We've all faced Jackson too.
yeah,
No one else on that team outside of Gus has.
yeah. That's true. Because
Like
they,
huge
yeah,
leverage.
that is huge. Yeah.
We've all faced Gus,
Yep. Very true.
right? Outside of Ty. And it's like I think there are certain areas within the game where like micro areas that if we really focus on them and reveal them, it'll help us, hopefully come out with a 2-0 record
Yeah,
versus the Yankees, right?
yeah, yeah. And I finally the other point I was going to make earlier finally clicked back in my head. But we were talking about expectations for the season, and until the Astros, um, no brand new team, every brand new team went 0-10 in their first season. So the fact that the expectations now for the new teams this year are like high compared to,
Yeah.
a brand new team, most of the time it's like, hey, let's just get one win, two would be a great season. It's flipped a lot. But in that
Yeah.
sense too, I don't know if this is true, but I wonder if there's any added pressure from the Yankees to be like, well, we're the established team. We've won championships. Granted, the players on the other team have won championships too. However, we're the established team, and this is a new team. And so I wonder if there's a little added pressure. And plus, you get the big splash free agent signing in Gus added to your roster. I wonder if that pressure might play into, who ends up, winning, or if the Yankees press even more a little bit in that game. Just the thought being the new team versus being the established team.
I think it has to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the roster and all the points you made, there's going to be a pretty big winning expectation
Mhm.
on their shoulders. And for most of them, I would say they rise to the occasion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't fall the way they want, but I they typically show up, right? So I think that's where it's going to lead to a pretty competitive match between us and
Yeah.
them, because they're in a spot where it's like we have to perform, and for us, it's like we got nothing to lose,
Yeah.
boys,
Well, and they
and
have to
and
perform.
we're really good.
Yeah. And they have to perform because there's only four of them. They don't have a
Yeah,
backup plan. They all have
right,
to perform.
right. So
One
if one's
guy,
off, you can't just
yeah, I mean, you had talked about the crack, right? But if one guy has a bad game, that makes for two, maybe three shorter innings where you're not
yeah,
getting your guys as many at bats. That could be all it takes to lose that game,
for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, and I'd hate to see that, but at the same time, our focus is the White Sox now, and uh, you want to do everything you can as a captain to enable your team to win every single game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And sometimes that comes in the form of putting pressure on other teams in ways that you never really thought of before.
Absolutely, man, for sure. You know, I guess looking at the schedule, we had talked about it. Have you looked any more at your schedule? Has there been anything else that stuck out other than what we discussed in the podcast? And when we talked about the early games, we talked about, a lot of specific things, or is there a single game that you've circled on the schedule? Like, hey, this is going to be the one that propels our season, could break our season.
Man, I haven't given it much thought ever since you sent it out, but I do think, a lot of what we're focusing on is kind of like small toll gates, right? It's all right, let's get the first game out of the way. Let's from there win the division, right? Let's get into the playoffs,
Yeah.
and then let's focus on winning the playoff or winning the final game of the season,
Yeah.
right? But as I pull the schedule up and look at key matchups, I don't I think we're going to be good for an early riser team. I'm more than likely going to be staying with Jackson, and in all the years that Jackson has been in the league, regardless of what he's done the night before, and even with the small amount of sleep, like he's there. And not to say that like I need to be by his side to make sure he gets there, but it helps, right?
Yeah.
But no, man, I mean, I'm excited to play a lot of teams as a new team, right? I'm excited to play you guys on Saturday, or sorry, Sunday, yeah, Sunday morning. I think that there could be some outlier games that maybe I haven't really thought too much about, like maybe the Athletics get real sneaky and like it becomes much more of a competition than we thought.
Yeah.
I will say that I think our game with the Twins Saturday morning could be a defining factor for either team. Whoever wins that could take a new level of confidence and let that ride out into the playoffs.
Yeah. But I also think, win or lose in that one, would be awesome for you guys. But
right.
I think that's a good measuring stick, especially early in the season, right? With it being your second game of the year, like having that, if you lose by a run or if you win by a run, like, whatever the outcome is, like that's going to be a good measuring stick. Like, okay, here's where we're at. And, where can we go from there?
For sure. Yeah, because it is definitely a contrast.
Yeah.
Between our first game with the Expos and then waking up in the morning and playing the Twins.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, so the power rankings just came out. Let's kind of dive into that a little bit.
Okay.
Before we have the and I say the power rankings, the positional or whatever you call them.
Yeah, the grade reports.
The grade or the rank in each category, hitting, fielding, pitching, came out. So the power rankings should be coming out soon from like an overall team aspect. Where do you think you're going to get ranked, and then where do you feel you should be ranked?
I think they're probably going to be pretty similar. I feel like we're a top 4 team overall. I think our fielding is elite. I think Jackson being a primary grade for our whole pitching group, should mean that we're high. I mean, the lowest grade we should receive, in my opinion, would be as hitting, and I still think it's going to be like an A-. Right?
Yeah.
Because the funny thing is like home runs with our whole group are probably statistically lower, only in the sense that Derek and myself are left-handed.
Yeah.
Ty's normally middle of the road, but high average. And it's funny because he and I are typically competing for most extra base hits
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
single season. And
Yeah.
it's
I
like
think
we're flipping the
manufacturing
record every
runs on
year.
your team is going to be, I think, a calling card for you guys.
Yeah. And if you take away, what exactly what I'm going to talk about, everybody talks about is the tree in right field. Derek and I jumped to, top 5 in home runs,
Hmm.
right? But we have freaking 5 to 10 extra base hits.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, but again, I think overall we'll probably see a 3 or 4 in total ranking, however you want to call it.
Hmm. Okay. And and you feel like that's about right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confidence around that.
Yeah.
But again, we don't have any proof of concept. We have paper and historic statistics that have told our story, right? I just know that we have a lot of confidence in our skill set. And if anything's reflected in our success within the previous years, we should probably fall within a top 3, 4 category.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so for those of you that haven't seen it, the White Sox came in hitting, pitching, fielding, respectively, fourth, and second. So second in fielding and then fourth in the other 2 categories. So seems pretty accurate from my expectations of your team. Again, I'm pretty high on you guys. I would say that if I had to argue with anything, it might be the pitching. Jackson's amazing, but with a bit of unknown in a number 2. And we know how important a number 2 is. Not that we know you can pitch, but we haven't seen a huge snapshot where other teams have 2 to 3 guys who have a lot of pitching experience. So you could say they would drop, but I don't think you're dropping down like to the bottom by any means, because Jackson
No,
does.
you might see a 4th, right? Like
Yeah.
4 across the board.
Yeah. So that would be the only thing I would say if I were to try to make a counter argument for the sake of conversation. That would be what I would think.
Right, because
You
now it's
also
like
think
go throughout all of your rosters in the league.
yeah, well, because Jimmy is going to hold clout for the Expos, right?
Right.
And it's a little bit of carryover from the era where you have to have one stud and one guy who can get you through the rest of the games. But at the same time, when you have elite pitching like that with one guy, he's going to do more because that's a majority of your games you can pitch that guy.
He's gonna pitch game more.
Yeah,
right.
He's going to pitch. You can pitch him a total of 6 game worth of innings, but games, right? You can break it up if you want, but
who had the number 1 in pitching?
It was the Orioles.
Right, where you have Sam and Brett.
And then PG.
Both
So
aces.
I think PG got having 3 potential aces in the voters' mind, pushed them to that top seed. There's a lot of buzz on Twitter right now about not only the rankings, but that specific ranking and how that panned out. So I think everybody, there aren't very many teams who are like, yeah, voters got it right. So so it's part of it, but people who are at the bottom are going to feel like they got slighted, and people who are at the top are going to be like, yeah, this is exactly where we should be. So
for sure. And I would say that, I don't know, I put a lot more weight on your ace than you would 2 average guys. And like I don't put a lot of weight on depth at pitching.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you look at, like, let's say like the Twins, for example. Everybody's really high on Will. And good for them, good for Will. But like I've always hammered Will. Right. So like anecdotally, I wouldn't give them a high ranking in pitching.
Right.
Spencer's balls come right into my barrel. Chris throws lobs. Like, yeah. So if you want to talk about depth, they have it, but like, I don't know. I'm hoping, based off of from my experience with like Will, like that transfers over to everybody else on my team.
Yeah.
But I know that some people statistically like struggle against him.
Yeah. Well, and you're a lefty and you're facing a lefty, and so it's a little different. But at the same time, like, Will's been number 2 in Cy Wiffle voting the last 2 years. So the fact that if I were to say anything about the way that voting happens, I wish people would look at recent performances versus the history of a career, because Brett didn't have as good of a year last year, but yet he's still vaulted up as this amazing pitcher.
Yeah, this pillar of
now
skill.
granted, he'll come back, and he could very well come back and be a monster on the mound because he has the ability to do it. However, if you were to look at it, Will has been number 2 in Cy Wiffle behind Jimmy, and then behind, was it Jackson last year? Did he win Cy Wiffle last year?
I think so. Yeah.
So, consistently he's been there. So you'd think, well,
it's like for the Brett comparison, it's like Albert getting signed by the Cardinals and everybody expecting him to be MVP this year.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. But to your point, could he give us episodes of his former glory? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't mean to knock Will. He's an exceptional pitcher.
Yeah.
And he's statistically speaking, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I myself have just never been
and your lineup,
his pitching ability.
And your lineup to that point for the White Sox, your lineup could give them the most trouble, being that you have 2 lefties.
Right. Because it's like Will's pitch is we know how it's gonna move, and it starts in line with us, and we're just sweeping it across the barrel, where right-handers, they get sawed off consistently by that hard cutting movement.
Yeah. Right.
Because we can keep playing the game and just keep pushing balls to left field, or get around them and just pull the crap out of them.
Yeah. Yep.
And Jackson, you never know what you're going to get with Jackson. Like, is he going to swing for the fences? Is he going to chop it down the right field line?
Yeah.
Like,
and he's still got the legs to do that stuff, man.
He does, right? And Ty's just an all-around athlete.
He's a freak.
So
yeah,
he's a freak, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, I wish you could have seen him in college, man. Like,
yeah,
dude, nobody could touch him.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah, I missed out on that. I'm the oldest player in the league. Player when I play,
right.
But I was beyond when he was playing intramural ball. I was playing with the guys who were seniors when he was a freshman, at best. So
because you just left when I came, right?
Yeah. What semester did you get there?
2012, fall 2012.
No, I'd been gone. I graduated. Right. So I was a 5.5 year senior. It took me 5.5 years to graduate. And then I graduated in December of 2009. So I was like way gone. Yeah. Way out. So like, I think, Gus would have been getting close to being there around the time
Gus was still there.
Yeah. So anyway, I never got to see him like that, but he and I came in as rookies together into the league. Yeah. So I've, been watching him play since he first stepped foot on the blur, and he's just been unreal. I mean, he was at the time one of the best rookies we'd ever seen in that rookie season.
Yeah, so you hope that like you get that.
Yeah, right.
Because I'll tell you one thing that hasn't slowed down is his work ethic and his tenacity.
Yeah.
Right, like Ty's a silent killer. He's not gonna make you feel horrible, but he's gonna be busting circles around you.
Yeah, it's crazy because his character, the personality he is like the exact opposite. He's so laid back and chill and just like, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. But then, on the field and the way he plays is the exact opposite. So
he's busting. He's busting it around.
Well, let's look at the other 2 divisions real quick. I'm gonna ask you to pick a winner for each division, right? So then you've got the Cardinal Blinds and Shutters division. You've got the Astros, the Athletics, and the Orioles in that division. So who would you think comes out on top on that one?
Man, that's hard. I think the Astros. Not saying that because of my history with the Astros or you being the captain and hosting this interview.
Yeah.
But I think you guys are going to build off of last year. Even in my absence, I think there's a lot of opportunity for guys to rise again, and every single one of them wants it.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at confidence levels, which is just a huge piece, man, the mental approach to everything, they're not. I don't think they're going to crack.
Yeah.
Like if it, here's the thing: if one of two players, Cam or Cole, if one of them falls, then you all fall because they feed off each other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they need to be moving full steam ahead.
Yeah.
In order for you guys to make a good run. And the Orioles have a better team on paper. I just, yeah, it's too hard to say. Like I don't think there's enough there because they're not looking at it from a long term approach.
Mhm. Awesome. And then the Ketting Eye Center division. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut it off that. I just don't really want to get
You're
too
good.
into it because that's my division, and
Yeah.
I agree also.
Well, you have to sit here and try to be as unbiased as
Podcast
possible.
host. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
I get that.
But Ketting Eye Center division is the Twins, the Rockies, and the Marlins. And I have a feeling
Easiest division out here, bro. What are we even talking about? Twins are going to take it home.
Yeah, they
And
got to be pretty happy with it.
I know the Rockies have been getting a lot of noise around the roster this year. Part of that, I've attributed to. So sorry, boys. Again, I won't be as intense as I was on the previous podcast, but I don't see it this year. Feels like a lot of patchwork's being done, and when you're in a division with the Twins, good luck.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
you're gonna have to
but
make nice work of the rest of your interleague play.
for sure.
So, all right, and then pick a division winner for your division.
Got to go the Sox. Have to. Right.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be us or the Yankees. But again, my hot take is that both of us are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, then that leads me to my next question. So then pick the two wild card teams. So you've got already in Astros, White Sox, Twins.
Yankees and A's.
Yankees and A's. Let's go. Yeah. I could see it. The A's have been building a lot. I feel like
assuming Chris is playing this year. Because I know his family situation, and that obviously takes precedence over throwing a little white ball and hitting it with a yellow bat. So Godspeed to Chris and his family. Obviously miss him if he's gone, but something super cool to rejoice in on that side as he starts his family.
Absolutely.
But I will fade the A's very hard if Chris is out.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be I think for the league, it's a good thing if he can make it, and it's a good thing if he can't too, because we'll know why, and we'll all be excited for him. But but he's.
And I'll slide the Orioles in there.
If they
slide
don't
the Orioles in if Chris is out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense to me.
But here's the crazy part: I won't be surprised if the Yankees go like 4-6.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
They could go up and down, man.
Yeah.
That trend may not leave because of Gus.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, you're only adding one new face after losing kind of two of your core. I mean, it was over 2 years, but still, two of the five main guys. You've got three of the four players are still like lifetime Yankees. So
for sure, but statistically, Scott's been the only one that's been elite level. Right?
Yeah. But then Kevin, you got Kevin coming up, behind him, and then really it's
Sam's potential's obviously
there, and then you hope that as a Yankee, you're hoping that Gus kind of smooths that out.
Well, from a bat, it's going to. It's a unique deal, right? Like Jackson never had a multitude of seasons to say, here's my bat, here's what I can do with it.
Yeah.
And he's gonna have that here with the White Sox, and he only had it really with the Yankees for like a year and a half or two.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if you just switch Gus and Jackson out, like, okay, the Yankees have something better because of Gus's bat.
Mm-hmm.
right? And Jackson and Gus are pretty interchangeable on the mound.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I
But my hope is that like Jackson comes out and hits that 4 spot and is just super consistent, mixing in a lot of different situational approaches with home runs, average, slaps, you name
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, and then the way you had said your lineup, then you're going to roll right back to the top again. So then you've got Ty,
Right.
you've got you. So if he's getting on base, again, manufacturing runs, and then getting that pop, when he needs it. So
yeah. And I'm super excited to really just see, everybody obviously go on full cylinder, but like I think people think Jackson's going to be hitting third and Derek's going to be batting fourth. Derek is primed for a dark horse candidate type of season.
yeah.
So I think batting that 3 hole is crucial for him because Jackson can hold the fort wherever he's at. And he's humble and confident enough to say, hey, I'll take that 4 spot. Let's do this thing together and give Derek the big opportunity he's been needing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which could just feed into him performing more because he just in a sense, like being grateful for the opportunity, right? Being excited, being pumped for the opportunity to not be in the shadow of his brother or in the shadow of some of the players on the Brewers before in the past. And
as Kyle's little brother.
You're right.
So, right. And it's like Derek. It's Derek. It's, not to say that it's all about him. It's like, hey, all right, it's Derek's show. It's his time to have his own episode here on a different team. Let's all do this thing together.
Yep. Yeah, it should be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm high on your team. So, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. So let's jump into the unknown rapid fire edition. We're going to jump into just some quick questions. We're going to do 10 questions here. So what is the final record for the White Sox?
7-3.
7-3. Who is the team MVP in season 20?
Ty.
Favorite 2000s song?
Favorite 2000s song? It's a long time ago. It's hard to remember. What about is that Scrubs? Like Scrubs, I got a hanging on.
I think so. Yeah,
that might have been 2000s.
2. Yeah, something like that.
Okay, I'm rolling with that. Is that it?
Nice. Yeah.
Scrubs. Yeah. Side note. Are we gonna do we're gonna get like an acapella group together in the SWBL? And no, come on, man.
No, there's only, I mean, it could be me, Sam, and David. We'll get you on board, bring Cam back, and he can beatbox and.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and get.
There's some sneaky guys in the league.
We'll get Jackson to be the front man.
Yeah,
with his hair for sure.
He's probably gonna cut it.
Oh. Who's going to lead the league in strikeouts as a pitcher in season 20?
Lead the league in strikeouts? My guy Jackson, bro.
All right.
I'm riding high on the Sox. Let's go.
As you should be. Yeah. And I expect that to be, the case for most captains. They're going to pick players from their team. So, who's your favorite team to play against?
In general, I would say, man, this is so tough because I'm like trying to wear my White Sox hat, but we don't have any history.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know what. So historically, I will just say the Brewers, but they're gone, so that's tough now. So that doesn't count, does it? Because they're gone.
Doesn't count either.
I'm throwing hella shade at the Rockies, but they've always been fun to play.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Brian is salt of the earth. I love how intense Blake gets. It's funny.
Yeah. My favorite thing he does is when he strikes out and he just drops the bat like it's hot, like on fire. He just drops it.
Super animated guy.
Yeah. Favorite place to order lunch during the season?
Probably Jimmy John's. I mean, it's super consistent. It's quick. Doesn't make you feel like trash.
Yep. It's a solid
I feel
answer.
like that's gonna be an answer for a lot of dudes.
We've had, so you're my fourth recording. We're putting them out in different orders, but it's only the second time it's been said. So
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So not as, I mean, it is popular, and almost everybody will order at least one Jimmy John sandwich during the weekend. But
For sure.
who will lead the league in RBIs in season 20?
Derek Cornell. He's gonna get me and Ty in all day.
Let's go. He's gonna find the gap between the pines. Just
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom.
Yep. All day.
You're hosting a movie night for the team. What movie do you show?
Braveheart.
Braveheart. Man, that's if you're drinking, you're gonna be hammered. It's so long.
It is super long. If we need to like taper it down, we'll we'll do Olympus Has Fallen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both
Team
good choices.
badasses.
Both
Yeah.
good choices. Yeah.
Basically, we just want to fight people.
All right. Choose one, give up two for the season. Pool, alcohol, sunscreen.
Mm,
So you can only keep one of the three.
I think you keep the booze. It makes your surroundings a little more fun and easier. No, I don't care about sunscreen. I mean, it'd be between that booze and the pool, I'd say.
Mhm.
The problem is normally those are tied together.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Pool's not as fun
yeah,
without it.
I think if I keep asking that question as we continue to get older, and I've changed it up a little bit between captains. So I've used lawn chairs as one to choose from too. And I'll kind of continue to do that. But I think as we get older, certain things are going to become less important and more important as we go. Sunscreen or lawn chairs or even like ice packs or
Like the massage gun.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah. All right, last question. Who wins the championship? White Sox. Going all the
All
way
day.
in season 1.
All day. That is the expectation, man.
Yep.
Again, we're gonna taper that with whatever happens, but like we got to have the mentality, and we have the guys that can do it. We have all the confidence in the world in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great team on paper. Like I said, I'm high on it.
That'd be a first, right?
Yeah, it'd be, well, yeah, like I said, I mean, up until the Astros, every new team had gone 0-10 in their first season. The Astros went either 1-9 or 2-8. We didn't do that great. And
Marlins are just
the Marlins, they're going into
crapshoot.
their third season. They were 0-10 in their first year. They won 3 games last year. So they're making their way. But yeah, there's I mean, I guess if you want to call the Phillies,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they did it, I guess. But
Somewhat.
yeah. So anyway, well, that's going to wrap up this podcast, the captain interview for the White Sox with John Calloway. So want to thank all of our sponsors. Thank you for contributing this year for season 20. We've got more captain interviews to come, as well as we're going to be doing a fantasy wiffle ball podcast soon and a season preview as well. So stay tuned as we inch closer. We're about 2 months away from the season. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more content coming at you. If you've enjoyed these so far, please like and subscribe, tell your friends about it. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody out at the Blur come Memorial Day weekend. Any final thoughts, Johnny?
Good luck to everybody out there, and looking forward to seeing you all Memorial Day weekend.
Absolutely. All right, fellas, take it easy.
See you.